This is Under Review, the show that talks about Colorado sports with a sprinkling of national sports stories as well. I'm Jordan Long. In this week's show, we're going to focus on two of the University of Colorado sports teams, the football team and the women's basketball team. We're going to start with the football team. The University of Colorado Buffaloes football team has 2 games left on their schedule, tonight against Washington State and then next week against Utah. The Buffs, as we call them here in Colorado, are in their first year with Deion Primetime Sanders as their head coach. Before he was hired, the head coach was Carl Doral, who lasted from 2020 to 5 games into last year. Now, Doral was awful. He had 8 wins and 15 losses in his time as the head coach for the University of Colorado Buffaloes in Boulder, Colorado. The only time Colorado was good was in the COVID-19 shortened year in 2020, his first year. The Buffs went 4-2 and ended in the Alamo Bowl. That just gave us really false hope. Last year, the Buffs started 0-5 and decided, hey, you know what? It's time to fire Doral because the results weren't there at 8-15. 8 wins and 15 losses. They finished the year at 1-11. Now, never thought that Sanders would end up in Colorado. It seemed like he wanted a bigger school. Well, he is the head coach of the University of Colorado. Now, before the season started, I looked at the schedule. I figured 4 wins would be great. That is what the goal was. 5 would be even better, even though that you would be 5-7. But if you went 6-6, you can earn a bowl game. Heading into tonight's game against Washington State, Colorado stands at 4-6. Still a better year than we have had in recent memory. Colorado, though, looked great in its first 3 games, beating TCU, Nebraska, and surviving overtime against Colorado State 43-35. Colorado then started Pac-12 play against the University of Oregon Ducks. Now, the Ducks were a veteran college team, and they were led by their quarterback, Bo Nix, who is in his 5th year of college football. He knows how to play the position. Anyway, Colorado was blasted 42-6. Bo Nix should be a high pick in this year's upcoming draft, and he passed for 276 yards and 3 touchdowns. And sure, he's picked off 1 time, but it didn't matter. The Ducks showed Colorado what they could be next year. Against USC, CU was down 34-7 going into halftime. It was easy for this team to give up, but they didn't. They fought back and outscored USC in the second half 27-14, but it wasn't enough as Colorado lost 48-41, even though they outscored USC 27-14. The most disappointing game of the season has to be against Stanford on October 13th. Colorado went up into halftime. They were up at halftime 29-0. It looked like they were cruised to victory. Well, somebody didn't tell Stanford, hey, you need to stop playing, because Stanford didn't, and Colorado took their foot off the gas. Stanford outscored CU 36-7 in the second half to force overtime and won the game 46-43. Looking at this season, like I said, they are 4-6 going into tonight's game against Washington State. Again, it's a better season because you have won 4 games as opposed to 1 game last year. All of these stats that I'm about to tell you are entering tonight's game. One of the biggest problems for Colorado, and it's something Sanders needs to work on, is the offensive line. The offensive line has been beaten so many times this year, and that has forced quarterback Shedeur Sanders, I should say, to run for his life. When he does that, he gets hit or sacked. Now, Sanders has been sacked 49 times this year, far too many. Now, that doesn't count the amount of times he has been hit. That needs fixing. Another area that Deion needs to fix is the defense. The defense is giving up 464.2 yards per game. They permit 292 passing yards, which is not great. But the biggest thing that they do is they do not stop the run. That is a problem, is stopping the opponent's run. Teams run for 172.2 yards per game. Running the football effectively has tired out the CU defense. Still, they are 4-6, which isn't so bad in Sanders' first year. They may not go to a bowl game because you have to win the next 2 games and be invited, but that wasn't the goal. The goal for Sanders is to show he could build a program. He has shown that already. Now, next year, they must be better. Sure, they're going back to the Big 12 conference. And honestly, I will leave my thoughts out of this, but I don't think they should have ever left the Big 12 to go to the Pac-12. But even so, I want to see improvement next year. Now, it could be 7 or 8 wins or more next year and a bowl game. Of course, the playoffs expand in college football. That would be even great if they could get a college football playoff berth, but I'm not expecting it. I want 7 or 8 wins, which would be an improvement. Plus, it will be Sanders' first real recruiting class. Sanders, I know, isn't satisfied with the season since they may miss a bowl game. They have to win their final 2 games to be bowl eligible. The truth is, for CU fans, we didn't expect much. That's because we were 1-11 last year. Sanders gave us hope that he can make the program a winner. Even if we end up at 4-8 or 5-7, you still have shown us you can build a program. We will be patient. Moving on to college basketball. I know it's early into women's college basketball. Of course, the NCAA tournament for women's begins on March 22nd, with the Final Four on April 5th and the championship game on April 7th. The University of Colorado women's basketball team has started the year well, and we'll get there in a moment. Last year, the University of Colorado women's basketball team finished with an outstanding record of 29 wins and 9 losses, and 9 wins and 7 losses in conference play. That's Pac-12 conference play. That was good enough for them to make the NCAA tournament for the second year in a row. In 2022, they were knocked off in the first round. Last year was one of the best in recent memory, advancing to the Elite, or I shouldn't say Elite 16. It's the Sweet 16. So they advanced to the Sweet 16. In the Sweet 16, their opponent was Iowa, but Iowa ended their season by a score of 87-77. Now, Iowa went all the way to the national championship game, but lost to LSU 102-85. Going into this year, CU was ranked 20th. Now, that was a preseason poll. I don't take a lot of stock in it because you take last year's stats into it. They were expected to be 4th in the Pac-12. They now stand at 3-0. Their first game of the year was against LSU. LSU was the defending champs. Plus, they have one of the best coaches in women's college basketball in Kim Mulkey. Mulkey is in her 3rd year as the head coach of LSU. She also coached at Baylor. This is her 24th season as a head coach in women's college basketball. Her teams, if you include last season, have won 4 NCAA national titles. LSU came into this game, or should I say the first game, ranked number 1 in the preseason poll. It wasn't surprising that they were ranked number 1. I mean, they are the defending champs, so of course you would be number 1. It looked like LSU would have the University of Colorado's number. Well, that didn't happen. The Lady Buffs came to play, and they won 92-78. In their second game, which was on November 8th against Limon, the Buffs drummed them 97-38. So Limon is not at the level of the University of Colorado. Now, this past Sunday, it was a more competitive game against Oklahoma State University. They were even down, that is, the Buffs were even down 39-35 at halftime. In the second half, the Lady Buffs outscored Oklahoma State University, 51-36 to win the game 86-75. Colorado is now 3-0 to begin the season. They are now ranked number 5 in the nation. That's their best ranking for them since 1995. That's the women's basketball team for the University of Colorado is number 5, and it's their best ranking for them since 1995 when they finished number 2 in the poll. Looking at this team, they are playing great basketball. I know it's just 3 games into the season, but they're showing last year wasn't a fluke. The Buffs have 8 games left before they start Pac-12 conference play on December 30th. Still, they're playing well. Hopefully, the Lady Buffs can keep it going. Of course, you want to play your best basketball in March, and they have a chance to do it. Time for my NFL picks of the week. Now, last week was, I'm going to say, not my best week as I went 2-3. We're going to start with the Cleveland Browns versus the Pittsburgh Steelers. The Browns are a 1.5 point favorite. It's basically a pick'em game. You have to like divisional games because they are usually close and you never know how they're going to go. In the end, I have the Cleveland Browns. The Las Vegas Raiders versus the Miami Dolphins. The Dolphins are a 13-point favorite, and I know the Raiders are playing well with a new head coach, but it won't matter this week as the Dolphins win big. The New York Jets versus the Buffalo Bills. The Bills are 7-point favorites. This game comes down to which team can force more turnovers. That is, the defense can force more turnovers. That will be the Bills as they win a close game. The Tampa Bay Buccaneers versus the San Francisco 49ers. The 49ers are a 12-point favorite. Honestly, the 49ers are the better team, and they win big. The Philadelphia Eagles versus the Kansas City Chiefs. Kansas City is a 2.5-point favorite. This may be the best game of the week because both offenses can score it well. It may come down to who has the ball last, but in the end, Kansas City wins at home. My picks again. Cleveland Browns versus the Pittsburgh Steelers. The Cleveland Browns. The Las Vegas Raiders versus the Miami Dolphins. Miami. New York Jets versus the Buffalo Bills. Give me the Buffalo Bills. The Tampa Bay Buccaneers, versus the San Francisco 49ers. The San Francisco 49ers. The Philadelphia Eagles versus the Kansas City Chiefs. I'm going Kansas City. I'm Jordan Long. Follow me at Twitter at SportsScoop1. Read my blog that I write Mondays through Thursdays at sports-scoop.com. Thank you for watching Under Review. Have a great day and week, and I will catch you next time here on Under Review.